What is going on, everybody? So I am back today to talk about a movie that came out a really long time ago, as long ago as the year I was born. And the reason why I'm talking about this movie is because I want to. Sometimes I revisit some classics that I just enjoy talking about. This was a movie I hadn't seen in quite some time, but that was a staple in my youth. And it was streaming on Peacock, and I was like, you know what? Let's watch a movie that was a part of my childhood that I really am looking forward to seeing again. And the film I'm going to be talking about today is Tremors. Tremors is directed by Ron Underwood. Hick handyman Val McKee and Earl Bassett can barely eke out a living in Nevada hamlet of perfection, so they decide to leave town. Despite an admonition from a shapely seismology co-ed who's picking up odd readings on her equipment, before long, Val and Earl discover what's responsible for those readings: 30-foot-long carnivorous worms with a proclivity for sucking their prey underground. So first off, I want to start by saying Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward make this movie. Their relationship as friends, they're just like so over the top and ridiculous that it just works. And I feel like every other person in the town really kind of just accents that and makes it for such an engaging experience, because this is a film that takes place in a really small town in Nevada, where I think it says like population 14 or something when you start the film. All these characters are given really bright, vivid personality within the first like 15 minutes, and that's what you need to create a really great film, is establishing really good characters. And I think what's great is it's kind of this like backwoods redneck town, and each person has such a unique characteristic. You have the convenience store owner, you have the two crazy gun cuckoo people played by Reba McEntire and Michael Gross, who Michael Gross ended up being in a lot of the sequels to this, which I have never even seen one sequel to this movie. I might eventually trek down that very dangerous path. All these characters have really eccentric personalities, and it kind of invests you in this world. And what I love about this movie is how subdued and how long it takes for the creatures to even show up. And I love how in the first rendition, you just really see their tongue and the small portion of the creature that exists. And it's not for a while, maybe a half hour into the film, to when you're exposed to the full length and the threat of these creatures. And that to me is what makes such a great film. Is so many movies now want to throw shit in your face right away, to where there's no mystery, there's no intrigue. And in this movie, I can imagine seeing it for the first time, which this is probably like the 11th or 12th time I've seen this movie, if not more, watching it for the first time and being like, okay, what is going on? Like, what is getting to these people? And seeing those little things, and your brain goes to, okay, how are you going to fight these little things off? And they get a cut off piece of the tongue, which at the time they don't know is the tongue. And they're trying to figure out, okay, these things crawl underground, how can we stop them? But then once you realize that the threat is much larger, the way that you have to change approaching fighting them becomes very different. And that's what I love, is the evolution in these characters' mindsets as to how are we going to approach this threat, and how can we solve this problem in a way that makes sense. And that's what's so great about this movie, is there's a rationale to everything. I love the inclusion of the co-ed student who's the seismologist, because it's a way of feeding you as an audience member information without it just being like ham-fisted stupid exposition. It makes sense, and it's added in times that doesn't make it feel like it's bloated or taking up too much of the runtime. And that's something else I really appreciate about this film, is that it doesn't treat its audience like they're stupid. And I always love movies that do that really just are kind of like, hey, here's what's going to happen, watch our characters make these decisions. And sometimes the decisions they make are bad, and they don't turn out the way that they want them to. And I just feel like this is one of those hour-and-a-half long action-packed films from the 90s that if you went and saw this in a theater, you would have a blast. I feel like movies like this don't come around anymore. You don't really just get these like fun horror comedy films, because there is a lot of comedy threaded throughout the horror, and it's also these really amazing practical effects that just don't exist anymore because everything's so reliant on CGI. And I'm not like an anti-CGI person by any means, but I can only imagine what effort went into making these creatures look so realistic and so threatening. And it's really just a fun time all around. I love this movie. I think so many people have not given it enough of a chance. I know there's a lot of people in the horror community who really love it, but it is such a fun experience. And like I said, I think Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward really steal the show between their relationship as friends and just kind of the back and forth. They almost feel like brothers at certain points with the way that they argue. And I just love this movie so much, and I could praise it all day long. I just think it's such a great time. It's so interesting. It's so well thought out. And yeah, that's all I really have to say about Tremors. It's a lot of fun, and I think everyone should watch it. So have you seen Tremors? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I think this movie is a blast. It's a wonderful film from my childhood that I really enjoy, and I look forward to seeing it again. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the very near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.